for a while, things were great, and I loved it. And I felt like I was coming back to some sort of normalcy. I moved to this, into New Orleans where there were writers, there were people that were unique and, understood what I was doing. And then just as that is starting to take off, Hurricane Katrina hit, and it devastated my world.
Welcome to OTR, Over the Rainbow, Achieving Mental Health for Real. This podcast offers hope to many people who needlessly suffer from mental health issues. Your host, Bob Adelman, brings you information on how you can recover from any mental health issue and achieve a happier life. If you want to know more, please check out his trailer. Bob's notes on today's show follows.
Meet Ryan Winter, a French Cajun author born and raised near the city of New Orleans. He tells his story of depression, which seems to be a mixture of heredity and the misfortunes that occurred in his life, including Hurricane Katrina. He is an experienced freelance writer with a demonstrated history of working in the writing and editing industry. Ryan is skilled in film production, linguistics, creative writing, and short films, so listen to his long road to recovery while he still works on living a much happier life.
Now, here's Bob with today's show.
Hello, Ryan. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Could you tell the listener a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm from South Louisiana. I was born in a very small, swampy Cajun town, as they say, among the bayous of Louisiana. After my parents' divorce, things started changing for me in different ways, and then my mom, she was a single mom for a long time. And then we moved around a lot, finally graduated high school in the same area, and eventually moved to New Orleans, which was only about an hour drive from where I was there in Dulac. So in the little town I was in, and things changed from there. So that's sort of the overview, I guess, of my timeline.
So it sounds like your childhood was pretty much okay. Did you have any symptoms of depression as a child?
It's sort of interesting. The first 5-6 years of my life were very colorful, very warm, a lot of great memories. And it's amazing how much I can remember. Even being at, 3 years old, I can remember all the way back then. I have incredible memory of childhood. And, my family was extremely close. My cousins, my aunts, we all lived in the same area. And especially my dad's side. They're all very close to us. Had a lot of great memories hanging out with my cousins. I had a lot of older ones, so they, taught me to read, and they would read books to me and my brother and things like that. And then my parents got divorced when I was about 6 or 7. And my sister was being born at that time. So it was very, very strange to go from this loving environment to my mom being a single mom and having to work. And then she had, me, my brother, and now my baby sister to deal with. And I saw less and less of my dad's family from then on. My mom she had married a couple times. Sadly, these were not very loving guys that she married. I never had nothing in common with any of them, and my mom wound up being the workhorse, whereas these guys were just kind of lazy nothings, And my elementary school years were pretty good. I mean, I had some really great teachers with the schools that I went to, even though we moved around a lot. But I always tend to I fit in very well. I learned a lot. But when I got to high school, it's, I was an awkward little kid, the whole acne thing and skinny and awkward. And I found it was so different from elementary years. The teachers I had didn't seem to really be involving and care. And
did you go through elementary 1 to K through 8? Was elementary for you? Or you had a junior high?
It started, junior high would have been about 7th grade. 7th grade, I mean, it was complete different from day and night to going from wanting to learn and loving to read and having these teachers that, told stories and would give us books and real encouraging environment. But once I got to 7th grade, I mean, it was just, man, it was like hormonal overload.
That's funny because, yeah, I had almost the exact same experience. I was pretty happy-go-lucky in my later elementary, which went up to 6th grade. And then my family decided on the good idea of moving from New Jersey to Alabama.
Oh, wow.
And there was this is 1970, so it was quite a culture shock.
Oh, wow.
And that's when everything started for me. My OCD, my depression, my anxiety, everything. But so you started about that same time.
But yeah.
What symptoms?
Same thing, honestly, Bob. It's right. I didn't fit in. I found that my classmates, they were really horrible people. I went to a very horrible junior high school, went to an even more horrible high school. The only real outlet I had, which I've always had, was writing. I loved to write. It was sort of my way of getting out of that. And even with dreams and aspirations of wanting to be, a novelist or a filmmaker was something I really wanted to do. And, it's funny, the teachers, I'd write stories in class, and even my teachers would tell me, don't do that. And I thought that was really strange, not very encouraging. Instead of saying, hey, what are you writing? Oh, that's great. You want to be a writer.
That was New Orleans that you went to high school?
It was in Terrebonne Parish, which is a parish that, they're not too far from New Orleans. We moved around that parish a lot, so there's never one town we were in, but the junior high school I was there in a town called Houma. And it just horrible environment, not very encouraging. I used to, especially in high school, when I got to about 10th grade was high school for us. I used to skip a couple of classes, not many, but I would skip here and there to go to the city because I had a good friend who worked in filmmaking, and I would always contact him, and he let me on set and let me watch, and it was fantastic. And I learned so much just watching him, work with this crew, whether it was a music video, whether he was working on a film, he always, he had his own business there in New Orleans in the city. And he'd say, oh, Ryan, hey, there's a video being shot if you want to come check it out. Or, oh, there's a movie being shot. And I loved it. It was fantastic. And then one day, I think my mother finally caught on to what I was doing. Dragged me into the principal's office, and I'll never forget this. This was just, the start of just of self, the lack of self-worth, should I say. And,
self-loathing, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was, the principal told me, and he looked me in the face, and he said, what do you think you were doing? And I said, well, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to make movies, and I loved it. This is, and he told me right there in my face, he said, that's a fantasy. That's not something you'll ever be able to do. That's just a fantasy. And I just didn't know what to make of that.
Sounds a lot like my father. He always used to say things like that.
It's to have someone that's supposed to be this authoritative figure in your life that's supposed to encourage you and tell you, if he would have said, look, I get it. That's what you want to do. That's fantastic. But finish school first and then go for it, son. Go for it. But it wasn't like that. He was basically said, no. You'll never be able to do that. And similar experience that year was with my guidance counselor, another person who was supposed to be encouraging. I had went in there. I said, look, I'd like to get some information on an college out in California. And he kind of gave me this weird look like, what? And so I said, I want to go to UCLA. And he kind of scoffed, and he said, son, you're never going to get into that school.
Did you have good grades? Were you?
Oh, yeah. Gosh, yeah. I always were an AB honor roll student. Okay. The only thing I kind of lacked was math. But again, it was, A, B, D in my math. Right. But definitely had a dream that I wanted, and I wanted it from an early age. And I've always wanted, every time I brought it up, thinking someone could mentor me in the right way, it was always like, oh no, you don't do that. And in South Louisiana, that was, no one was a writer. I didn't know any writers. I didn't know any filmmakers. My parents, they were workhorses. My dad was in the, oil industry, still is. He's still works in rigs and things like that. And that was your life in South Louisiana. It was, finish high school, you get married, you go work offshore, you have some kids, and that's it. And I didn't want that. I didn't want that at all. And I couldn't find anybody that could understand what I was trying to do.
How was your mood at that point? Did you think you were depressed, or it was just the circumstances that really brought you down?
Well, I had went to a facility. I had attempted or threatened to kill myself because it was, like I said, it was just a bunch of blows. And being in this high school where, every time I went to, every day I was picked on, during the playground, and just horrible experience. I heard the teachers, screaming for kids to stop talking more than I heard the lessons. It was absolutely terrible education. And having this sort of, all these doors saying, no, you can't, you can't. And then coming home to my mom, who was working all the time, and having this distant stepfather who was not at all any kind of father figure. So, this sort of snowballed, and I went to a facility for about 2-3 weeks. I don't find it helped too much, but I didn't really learn too much from that. Finished high school, and once I was in high school. After high school, I told my mom, I said, I'm moving to the city. I absolutely need to be there. This is where I need to be. And for a while, and this is around 2000, 2001. And for a while, things were great, and I loved it. And I felt like I was coming back to some sort of normalcy. I moved to this, into New Orleans, where there were writers, there were people that were unique and, understood what I was doing. And then, just as that is starting to take off, Hurricane Katrina hit. Oh. Yeah. And it devastated my world, because I was really falling in love with the city. I was writing a lot. I was meeting people that worked in film. And as soon as Katrina hit, it cut the heart right out of me. And those following years after that, everybody moved away. Any connections I might have had, gone. My apartment gone. All my belongings gone. And it was a period of, it was every day I fought, for my life, really. Should I continue, or should I just get the hell, check out? Really? And it was tough. We all went through that, and I can't say that I'm some special, person, but no, the whole population, it was just a state of shock for a couple of years. And,
were you like, not wanting to do things, and did you have symptoms of depression?
At this time, it was pretty strong. Oh yeah, I was, because there was no hope, or at least it felt that way. And people that, once again, we thought people that were going to come in and help. As far as our government leaders, it took them a long time, as if they forgot us. And it was really hard. And people from, ordinary citizens from the country came in and helped. And that's, that was wonderful. But, being inside that bubble of just constant chaos everywhere you saw, we had no mail, we had no, our favorite restaurants were gone, our favorite places where we'd hang out were gone, and people I used to hang out were gone. So there was the sense of, what do I do? Where do I go? This was my whole world. And it kind of got back on track for a little while, and it took a long time, and I finally published my first book, which was fantastic.
What is your name?
It's the first one, believe it or not, it's a children's book about New Orleans. And a lot of my friends laughed, because I always wrote horror stories. That was always my aim. And it kind of happened by accident. It's called New Orleans Mother Goose. It was sort of Cajunized nursery rhymes. And I felt like I was coming back, in some capacity. And then another hard blow, I had to leave town. A relationship I was in completely exploded in a bad way.
How old were you then?
I was about 38 here. Yeah, okay. I was about 38 here. I'm 44 now, but
okay.
This was another devastating blow. I was in school, but I was not doing too well in school because financial situation, school doubled and tripled in price, and I didn't have enough loan, to cover that. So I was kind of a little hurt by that. And then this relationship kind of ended in a very ugly way. And I couldn't afford to stay in the city. By that time, the city, the rents had, tripled. It was insane how something went from $500 a month to, $1,700 a month, and rents were just astronomical, and I had to leave. And I had to go back to the only place I knew, which was Terrebonne Parish, which is the last place on earth I wanted to be. But that's the only place I could have gone. I went and stayed with my sister, and then I stayed with a friend there. And it was going from this city life to completely no stores whatsoever, in a couple mile radius. And I was staying at a friend's house for about a year or so, and again, it crept in, this depression, because I was completely alone. There was nobody, around, and I couldn't get around, in the country. There's no buses, there's no streetcars, all these things I was used to. And I hit a really bad bottom. And again, a friend reached out to me at the right time, because I was definitely insanely depressed. I just lost everything. And now here I come to the one place on earth I don't want to be. And I'm without vehicle. I'm way in the country in this little house. There's absolutely nowhere to walk to. There's nowhere to go. It was hard to find a job because there was no businesses nearby that I can get to. So I thought that was the end. And then a couple months after that, being in the next year after that, should I say, I found out my mom has stage 4 breast cancer.
Oh, yes. You had a lot of bad circumstances. Possibly if you had better luck, you might not have been so depressed.
Correct.
Am I reading that right?
Yeah. It's a good way to put it.
I'm not trying to belittle your pain.
Oh no, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. Did you ever seek out a counselor or a psychiatrist?
When I went from my friend's house to my mom's house when she got the diagnosis, and I wound up seeing a counselor, a behavioral health counselor. And as interesting as it was, I have to say I don't find it very helpful, because you're just sort of talking it out, but you're not really finding any solutions to it.
Some people have good results. Other people don't. I feel good for about a half hour, and that was it. I think a lot of my issues had to do with my chemical imbalances. So medication was the answer for me, but a lot of people get help through counseling.
Absolutely. I definitely don't say it's horrible, don't do it. But it just, in my case, I felt it didn't. And I got to see a doctor that put me on, antidepressants and things like that, because that's also something that runs in my family, and my dad.
I was going to ask you that. Are your parents, do they have symptoms?
No, it's my dad is a very happy-go-lucky person. He doesn't let anything, get past him. He's very, very, very passive. My mom, on the other hand, she went through a lot. I can see where she dealt with she had to deal with a lot. She had to work all her life, and she had to be on her own most of the time, even though she was married. She was in these unsuccessful marriages with these guys who just didn't help her or take care of her. But on my dad's side, my grandmother, she was paranoid schizophrenic.
Okay.
She was not dealt a very good hand. She had Parkinson's, she had diabetes, she had, all these things, this poor woman.
Yeah, luck runs in your family, it looks like. That's that.
Yeah, oh yeah. And when they ask, you have, history, I'm like, well, yeah. Unfortunately, I have to say yes. And it was pretty severe. But,
right.
Going and seeing this counselor, the only bad thing is here in America, or especially here in the South, there's very limited resources. These behavioral therapists, there's 3 of them to 5,000 patients, and they just can't handle it all.
Even today, you have a hard time finding people.
Yeah. There's just not enough. There's just the world right now, especially the way it's going. A lot of people need to seek that out, and I encourage people to, but we just don't have the resource, I think, for the amount of people that need it. Because even then, and being where I was back in Homa where my mom lived and all, where I came from the start, relatively medium-sized town, but you like I said, you have 3 therapists, but then you have 1,000 people needing therapy, and I only saw her, I think, a couple times, like once a month, and that's not going to solve anything, and it's still like that.
Sometimes it doesn't work at all, but because sometimes you do need the medicine, but if it's a circumstantial thing, that's kind of like PTSD, where you can talk it out, and if you do the right procedures, it can help a lot.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's different types of, and it's when it comes to what you need. I mean, you really have to feel it out, because right now, my mom, she fought this cancer for 5-6 years, and she actually made it.
Wow.
She survived stage 4. She sure did. And she's someone who just never gave up.
Yeah, this week, my brother-in-law, who was like a brother, he was one of the closest relatives I had, passed away. He was 73, but gosh. Still, it's too soon. And then a week later, Sunday, on Mother's Day, we had to put my cat down. And she,
oh no.
Yeah, she was only 8. So that was really awful. We were close, he would guard me at night. Yeah, we were very close. It's tough. Well, both of them are really tough to handle. So I'm going through a lot, but a lot of depression isn't circumstantial. A lot of depression is just chemical, I think. And since you said that you had, your grandmother and all of that, that may be part of why you got so down about things. I mean, it's a possibility.
I can see that. Absolutely.
Did the medicines work at all for you? Did you have any success with them?
Well, it was up and down, and I'll tell you right now, after I left where my mom's place, after she was on the mend and I was going to go back to New Orleans, COVID hit it. And so I decided not to go there. And now I'm in southern Mississippi, which not the best choice, but it was better at the moment with when I did this during COVID, because New Orleans, I mean, it hit New Orleans like a bomb, and I really didn't want to go back to that. But again, I started sinking into depression because I'm in this rural area where I'm just, not getting resources I need, or, it's a welcoming place, but not very friendly. And so I finally saw a doctor here, and I find, the medication he has me on is doing great. It's something I've never been on. And it's a very high dose. I am on Wellbutrin right now. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's a very high dose of it. I find it's working fantastically with me. Now, the only problem is when I got here to Mississippi, I was diagnosed with narcolepsy.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about that. My medicine that I take, some of the medicine I take seems to cause a little bit of narcolepsy.
Mm-hmm.
I never had it before. So tell me about that. How did that feel?
It's they know so little about it, and I certainly didn't know anything about it. I thought it was, people just automatically just fell asleep in mid-sentence. But no, it's almost like hypersomnia. I was working at a hotel here in Southern Miss, and I was falling asleep. I fell asleep twice driving there, and it's a good 20-30 minute drive from where I was living, because it's, like I said, I'm in a very rural area here on the Gulf Coast, and so I had to drive. No matter where I was going to work, it was going to be 20 minutes, no matter what. Everything is 20 minutes driving, but I was driving one day and I parked at a light, waiting at a light, and I drifted off just like that.
Mm-hmm.
And second time it happened, I could feel just an insane feeling of I've got to sleep right now. And I pulled over and I didn't wake up until the next day.
Oh my God.
And this was 3 p.m. Oh yeah. And
wow. Were you sleeping at night?
I slept. There was no clock. There was no clock. It was I could be up for a few hours at night, but then I would sleep 12 hours. So there really was no clock, and there were days where I would sleep for 3 or 4 days straight.
Part of my issue is that I took this new medicine that really helps my apathy. Like I used to sleep the whole weekend. I was very apathetic, and it turned it completely around to the point where I only get about 5 or 6 hours sleep at night, and then I take little cat naps because I'm retired.
Mm-hmm.
But that can be serious, falling asleep at the wheel. Yeah, I had some issues with that too.
Well, it's scary, It just happens, we don't, listening to my neurologist explain this, she said, they don't really know what causes this. We don't understand why people get it. And, I don't know if it's a symptom of my depression, but I tell you what, it went hand in hand. It made my depression even worse because now it could have
been the medicine was too much, or is that a possibility?
I've never got any diagnosis that said that would one interfered with the other, so that I don't think so.
Did it clear up? Are you okay now, or you still have it?
I'm still fighting it. I'm on a different kind of medication. I've gone through the ringer of what they have available, and I'm on my second one of the type that they're trying, and I'm able to stay awake part of the day, and they've got me to where I'm starting to sleep normally. Like I go to bed about 11 and I can get up about 8 or 9 o'clock, which before I couldn't. I was sleeping whenever, wherever. And now I'm sort of back on a body cycle, but I'm still fighting to stay awake the full day, and we're working through that right now. But with the depression medication, keeping me a little. It gives you that hope. Like I feel better. Like okay, well I'll lick this. Whereas before it's like I just want to die.
We could all use some hope. Yeah, I mean, so you went and you wrote a new book. Could you tell us a little about the new book? I write horror fiction. I wrote one based on the Axemen murders, the true story of the Axemen murders of 1918 New Orleans. I'm redistributing it right now. It's off the market right now, but I'm giving it a reboot. There is some. What is it
called?
It
is called Wake the Devil. Mm-hmm. If you love.
Okay. I don't want to do that.
If you love true crime, paranormal, this would definitely be, up that alley. There is some Hollywood interest to it too. So this is why I took it off the market right now too. I'm working on getting a new book cover for it because it was self-published and things like that. But I'm putting it back on the market shortly, and followed up with a dark fantasy book called Ravish, and that was published, I think in 2020. But since then, I haven't written anything, and that's a problem for me. And it was, the depression being, so, you just don't want to do anything. You don't want to read, and you don't.
Right.
I certainly didn't want to write. I certainly didn't want to create. I just wanted to go back to sleep. And after sleeping, 20 hours, you still you need to go back. And I'm like, and you miss out. You miss those things. And now with this, with this medication working, now I'm back. And I'm back.
Well, that's good. I mean, you have a new hope, and you're going to start writing again?
Absolutely. I have 3 books in the canon. Okay. I'm starting to promote my book Ravish, and like I said, Wake the Devil will be back on the market shortly.
And you have another job at the same time, right?
Right now, I don't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody's out there, look. No, I mean that's good. I mean, it sounds like you're back on the right track. Do you have any? It's on Amazon, right, and all the other.
It is.
Barnes and Noble.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some books. I'll put that a link in when this gets published. I'll put a link in there to all your books.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
I have
well, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, if you have I have my official page would be Ryan Winter fan page on Facebook. So if you have it, that'd be the best place to look for everything.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody go to that page, not all at once, hopefully, but that would be nice. I mean, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
You too, Bob.
I try to keep the podcast down to like 35 if I can.
Absolutely.
People get a little nod off, you know.
Oh, I understand.
But, you've been a great guest, and I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Not at all.
And you get no parting gifts, but
it's just good to be around. It's good to actually be able to stay up and talk with you. And believe me.
Good luck with everything. Sounds like you're going in the right direction.
Thank you. Well, I have the hope now. I appreciate you, Bob. Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
You bet. Bye-bye.